The Virtual Breakaway Podcast with your hosts Nick and Junior and producer Vince, bringing you elite fantasy hockey information to help you win your fantasy leagues and win at life.
Episode 49, let's go!
Don't ever touch the soundboard.
Guys, how's it going? What's up?
Raiders.
Can we not talk about football? Please. 97-yard touchdown from Sam Darnold. Gosh darn it.
What a great week to be alive.
The only win the Raiders will get.
Doesn't matter. It was against the MVP. We're happy with that.
All right, so back to hockey
You know what's
now.
better than fantasy football? Fantasy hockey.
Dun, dun, dun.
Oh, that's really nice. Nice segue into the episode. I like that.
Not many will agree, but I do because it lasts longer, so it gives you hope for longer.
It gives you hope before it crushes you like a grape at the end.
Yeah.
Vince, how was your day?
My day was good. Can't complain. Busy, but it was a beautiful day outside for once. Thought winter was coming and summer snuck back in for about 2 days. So can't complain. It's good.
We had a great episode last week.
Well, obviously, I mean,
We had a professional on, and
exactly.
for those of you
And
that
it showed.
it showed. Those of you that actually saw the episode noticed how nervous I was at the beginning. I think I rambled for the first 5 minutes.
More like 10, felt like half an hour.
Yeah, felt like half an hour at the end of it. Yeah, I was listening to myself talk afterwards, just like quality control, and I was like, "Wow, I didn't shut up."
oh, like now.
So, Junior, remember when it was just us two doing the episodes?
I
Let's
do,
go
I
back
do.
to that.
Okay, so you know what I find strange in all this is we've been doing team previews for so long that I don't know how to go about a new episode. Like
true.
The whole prod sheet is different now. But
Well,
let's
it's-
start with the rankings. How about that?
So, okay, yes, we'll start with rankings. Today's episode basically is going to be goalie rankings, goalie tiers, where we've placed goalies for fantasy drafts, because fantasy drafts are coming up right now, and everybody's starting to get back into the mood of fantasy hockey, which is a great time to start giving out our rankings. So today's going to be goalies, and I'm happy that we're starting with goalies because we're probably going to get it all wrong.
Yeah, it's the most unpredictable position in the NHL.
Yeah.
It's like
Tier 1 is safe, I guess, but then after that.
yeah.
Okay, so you know what? We finished with is it the Atlantic Division?
Yeah, before Victor came on, we finished with the Atlantic Division. So we'll give our standings of the Atlantic Division. Even though it includes Montreal, we'll try to keep it short and not start arguing and not get hate mail from Habs fans. So,
Why don't you start, since you like talking to
All right, let's start with the sourpuss over there.
all right, so here are my rankings for the Atlantic Division. Hab fans, just change channel if you don't want to hear this.
No, don't change channel. Just comment your hate.
Download, you don't need to listen at all.
At Vince.
Okay, so I got Tampa Bay finishing first.
Whoa.
Toronto second, Florida third, Boston fourth, Ottawa, Detroit, Buffalo, Montreal. Reason for Tampa Bay, I think healthy Vasilevsky, which I'll talk more once we get into the goalie rankings, makes a huge difference. Gensel helping the team, I think, is big. Toronto, I like the changes they made in defense. I feel they finally made the right changes this year, where they stopped thinking offense because they already have the offensive players, so they picked up players that can help them on the defensive side. Florida, I just feel it was a long season, a long, hard season for them, so I think they might take a step back.
Why don't you just talk about what everybody wants to know? Why do you have Montreal last?
Because they're young. They're young and unhealthy. At the end of the day, they haven't proven to me that the players they have can play more than 50 games. Doc, who's our second centerman, hasn't proven he can play more than 50 games. Laney hasn't proven that he can play more than 60 games. Our defensemen are really young, high potential, but really young. And at the end of the day, Montable, can he repeat what he's done for the past year? So that's why I have them last.
know what?
I like the process. Like, don't get me wrong, I like the process Montreal's taking, and to me, finishing last is not a bad thing because I think next year is the year where they need to step it up. This year, I just think too many of the teams in front of them got better. And to me, Laney, I like Laney, but I don't think he's an addition where he's going to make us fight for a playoff spot.
Sorry, just a little caveat. Now that you mentioned Laney, in Quebec lottery, mise au jeu, you know how you said 25-25, you're happy with that?
Mm-hmm.
His over-under in goals, 24 and a
Yeah,
half.
of course. But the thing is, people are laughing at that, saying, oh, it's over. And in my head, I'm like, Vegas doesn't make mistakes like this. If Vegas has that 24 and a half, it's because they know that's the type of season he's going to get. They don't make, like, the casino never loses.
So that's you know what, I could see an argument of where you're coming from. I could see the reason why you've come to that conclusion. Let's see if Junior agrees with it.
Okay, so I've got Toronto at 1.
Nice.
I think they made the right changes. It might take a little while to come together, but I think there's going to be such a structure that even when they don't play well, they'll be in games, and then their elite talent could win them that game in the third period. So I got Toronto at 1, Tampa Bay at 2, because I agree with a healthy Vasilevsky, and I think Gensel is an upgrade on Stamkos. Not that I don't like Stamkos, just naturally Gensel is better. Florida at 3, Ottawa at 4. I think Ottawa makes it as a wild card.
Wow.
Yeah. I give a lot of hate to Ottawa. I give them a lot of shots, but I got to give them credit. I think they're on the right track here. So I got Ottawa at 4, Boston at 5. So both my wild cards come from the Atlantic Division. Buffalo at 6, Montreal at 7, Detroit at 8.
Okay, do you want to do any comments about Detroit, seeing how it's your wife's team and she might divorce you after this episode?
And that they were 1 point away from making the playoffs last year.
Yeah, but see, they were 1 point, and obviously Edvinsson could have given them that point, right? We discussed that, and he's going to be on the team. I just don't think they got better. Edvinsson will be in the lineup, but their goaltending is still a mess. And JT Compher is their number 2 center. That still worries me. I think those are 2 very important positions on a team, and they could do a lot better in each of them.
Patrick Kane having a full season.
Patrick Kane having a full season, but he's also older in age. Like, I struggle to see. I don't know. Look, it's now or never. If they don't do well this year, then something's up in Detroit, right? And there's too many ifs in Montreal, which is why I still don't have them close to. I think Buffalo is just a step ahead because their young guys are a little bit more ready. I mean, if Laine stays healthy and plays 82 games, he can score 30, 40 goals. If Caulfield comes back and scores 40 goals, if Doc stays healthy, if the young guys on defense develop, like, there's way too many ifs for them to all really come together and then make the playoffs or come close. So, but I think Ottawa under Travis Green, I think, and Ullmark especially, I think that's the biggest difference maker there. Even though defensively they took a bit of a hit, I think Ullmark makes that difference.
Nice.
I had a very hard time with this division.
Yeah.
I had a very hard time ranking it because, to me, it could go any way.
Mm-hmm.
But every single team here improved except Detroit. So I'm starting with Detroit last as well. I agree with Junior. And again, not because I don't like listener Rooks, but it's more.
We love listener Rooks with all our hearts.
It's not because of listener Rooks, but it's just there's so much competition in this division that it's great to see, and it's going to be a lot of fun during the year. But I have Tampa first, and I have Tampa first because of the fact that I think a healthy Vasilevsky, a full off-season Tampa Bay. Don't forget, Tampa Bay had played a lot of games deep into the playoffs. They got tired. They got hurt. Vasilevsky got hurt. If he's healthy 100%, which is what the reports are saying, I really like Tampa where they sit right now, and they didn't lose much. And losing Sergachev, but replacing them with more defensive-oriented McDonough.
Yeah, that's where I was going.
Moser, JJ Moser.
JJ Moser, not that he's a difference maker. It's just Gensel I really like on this team.
Adds a bit more structure for a team that's really has a really high power.
They had a
offense.
really good offseason. I think they had a really good offseason. Not that Stamkos was not going to score a lot of goals, but I think Tampa's offseason was very good. Who had the second best offseason? Toronto. And I have them in second place right now. So Toronto in second place. And the only reason they're not in first is because there are a couple of question marks in goal. Woll has the ability to steal games. He has the ability to be very good. Stolars has the ability to play good. Neither of them have played more than 30 games in their careers. You know what I mean? So
And a new system.
and a new system. It's a lot to ask for when it comes to Toronto being first. But I still have them up there. The only reason I have Florida third, by the way, is the hangover that I'm pretty sure Matthew Tkachuk still has. And Boston fourth. They're still making the playoffs. Boston. And I'm a little bit scared about the Swayman situation. They got to figure that out soon. Before it starts becoming a distraction.
If Swayman doesn't sign, they finish second to last.
Well, to Vince's point a couple episodes ago, he's your best player. You got to sign the guy. Him and Pasternak are your future for the next decade.
Yeah.
Apparently, they're far away from. agreeing.
Allmark in Ottawa is going to be very interesting. I think Ottawa finishes fifth, possibly a wild card as well. I'm not so sure about that because I really like New York Islanders on the other side in the Metro. Montreal sixth, fighting for a playoff spot, and I'm pretty sure my neighbor will stop listening to me if I say that they're anywhere lower than six, so I had to put them six. Buffalo and Detroit that I already mentioned, so that's the end of that.
So we can say this was one of the divisions that we had the most like.
It could go any
like
way.
in the other divisions, we had basically almost the same teams finishing top four, and the bottom four. This is the one where we have a bit more.
Well, you know why?
differences.
Because Toronto, Tampa, Florida, and some believe Boston as well are cup contenders. Never mind playoff. They're cup contenders to most, right? And then Ottawa is at the end of their rebuild where they should be competing. And then the rest are all in, like Buffalo, Detroit, technically should be close to the end of the rebuild. Montreal's, like everybody is improving. And then you have your cup contenders. So there's going to be a big surprise in this division. We just don't know what it's going to be. Someone's going to be disappointed with the outcome.
Okay, guys, next topic I want to mention is PTOs.
Ooh, which are important.
Now, I want to do this lightning round, which means one-word answers.
3-minute
So-
answers, right?
One-word answers, and it's going to be buy, sell, or wait and see. Okay, so I'm going to say the name. I'm going to say what team he's going for. You tell me if you're buying that as a fantasy relevant addition or not. Okay? So I'll start with you,
Yeah.
and then I'll go to Junior. The biggest one in my books is Max Pacioretty. In Toronto, he signed a PTO. Alan Walsh came out and said he pretty much has a contract already verbally agreed upon.
Bye.
So he's going to be in Toronto.
Bye.
Buy? What do you... Give me like an outlook.
An outlook meaning
Projection.
he's going to be playing third line. Could play on the second power play, and if there's any injuries on the top six, he can easily just come in and take that position.
Pacioretty. Buy, sell, hold. Or maybe.
Sell. I mean, this is the highest his value is ever going to be. I don't expect much from him in Toronto. I don't like the fit at all.
Really? Okay. I have him at 20 goals, 20 assists. That's my projection. And I think it's a buy for sure because you're probably, especially in cap leagues, he's probably getting a minimum contract, 850,000, 950,000, something like that.
He'll be in our waiver wire pickups at some point.
He'll be a middle sixer in Toronto. And
He will be, but I'm saying his value will never be higher than once he signs
there's-
officially with Toronto.
keep
There's
an
a
eye-
bunch of Max Pacioretty's, like 20 goal scores, 20 assists. out there.
Yes, for sure. Just keep an eye on it. Tyson Barrie in Calgary.
Listen, I'll say sell. I think they have players.
Not interested.
No, I think they already have players that are like Tyson Berry. If he doesn't make the team, he won't be anywhere relevant.
I like him. I'd say buy. I think he has potential to play on power play if Uyghur doesn't pan out or Miromanov.
Yeah,
I like Barry just because he's got a bit more of an opportunity there.
I have him as a maybe. But exactly for that reason.
Yeah, I just
He's
didn't want to be
probably-
in the middle. That's like the coward
Yeah.
way out.
keep an eye out. Put him on your watch list. Nikolai Kulemin, PTO for Ottawa.
Wait and see.
Maybe?
Nah.
No? I have him no as well. He's probably going to be a bottom sixer.
Yeah, exactly.
Kalen Addison, PTO for Ottawa as well.
I don't know. He lost his job to Faber when he was with Minnesota. I feel Ottawa already has their offensive defenseman, so to me, it's a nay.
Same. Nay.
No interest?
I'm not. How many lives does this guy have? At some point, it's got to be the player's fault, not the situation.
Yeah, no interest. But all these players are somewhat relevant, so please keep an eye on them. There's a couple of other ones like Matt Martin and whatever. We didn't really mention them because Yamamoto maybe. Right? So we didn't really mention those players because of the fact that we don't really think they're going to be fantasy relevant. These might...
Listen,
keep an eye out.
Usually if you're signing a player on a PTO, it's not to fill up your top six. Right? It's your bottom three, and hopefully that if something goes wrong, they can make it there.
Okay, the next little bit of news, I'm just going to kind of walk through it very quickly as well. It's preseason injuries.
Mm-hmm.
Like the season hasn't even started yet, but there's some people that are injured. So, for example, Beckett Seneke, injury. I think he's going to be out for a few weeks.
Is it his ankle?
I don't remember. I didn't really write it down because again, it's preseason, so it's
He wasn't gonna play with Anaheim anyway.
No.
But
Not
it
this
doesn't
year.
seem to be like chronic
Career-threatening.
injury or anything that's like you're scared that can happen again. You know.
Sorokin, according to Lula Morello, he's going to be back the second or third day of training camp. Any concerns?
Anything that's considered lingering, for me, is a red flag. I'm scared. If I have Sorokin, I handcuff him with Varlamov. Absolutely.
No, but Sorokin, I'm not that worried.
And I don't trust Lou for my life.
Demko.
Yeah, he's a red flag.
This is a little bit of I don't know what's going on. It looks like he came back too early in the playoffs. He pushed himself back. He got injured right away again. Couldn't play.
He should be ready for camp or no?
Yeah.
No, they're not. They're saying he's not going to be ready.
They're saying that whatever he has is not going away, so he needs to learn how to play with it. Basically,
sounds
Carey
familiar,
Price,
eh?
Basically, like Carey Price had to play with the injury.
Except Demko is much younger.
Yeah, but we don't know how long Carey Price had the injury he had.
Yeah,
Right,
well,
since Kreider.
it was a little bit later.
exactly.
Yeah, since
So-
Kreider.
It's still, if you look at when he got hit from Kreider, he was still young. Carey Price, it wasn't old. So from what I'm hearing, they're saying Demko right now, they're working on him, getting used to playing with what he has. There's no way of healing it. There's no way of doing it. He needs to play with it.
Is it safe to say he might not ever be a volume starter again? I don't think he ever was, but I don't think with this, if it's chronic, like we're saying, like
Vancouver's hoping that he's a volume
60
starter.
games. I don't know if you want to risk that with someone who has an injury that really won't ever really go away.
I don't see him playing back-to-back games.
He shouldn't. Not this year anyway.
I noticed that in Project Llama. Those of you that don't know that league, by the way, it's Project Llama.xyz. Look it up on
Jamie's gonna
Commissioner
website.
Jamie, hell of a job on the website.
Commissioner Jamie is gonna kick
If any
your
of you are
ass.
starting a league and want to see what a cap league with contracts looks like, that, my friend,
A minors, a reserves, like it's
Is
full pin.
pristine
Full
league.
pin.
So projectllama.xyz.
His price is really low. Don't worry about it. It's very cheap.
Gabriel Landeskog.
It's a commission for partial breakaway. Hey there, Jamie.
Landeskog. I noticed that you signed him on a 1 year.
I did.
Explain.
He looks really good. I have nothing to lose in the sense that in our league, if he doesn't start the season, I can put him right away on long-term IR. So I can bring him back at any time I want. He looks good, and when Nishushkin out and Lehkonen not starting the season, like if Landeskog could get in there, I think he can be pretty productive if all stays intact, you know. So it's a low risk, high reward because I have the opportunity to maybe stash him on IR.
Marsha had like 2 surgeries this offseason. 3 surgeries this offseason?
Yeah, three.
From what I
Three,
heard.
you're right.
Shoulder,
And then 2 core.
1 abdominal. Man,
I think it was 2 core. I don't remember exactly what area, but yeah. So, but they're saying he's going to be ready for preseason games.
I don't know, man. 36 years old. I think he's he's around that age. All those like Boston is really. Boston scares me this year, and like Swayman deal's not done. Marsha is.
I mean, by the time this episode comes out, the swimming deal could be done.
I could, but I doubt it, Nick. They're so far apart in the Swayman.
That's what we hear. Yeah,
He's like, apparently he's looking for 10.5, and they're offered 6.5. So it's far apart, and they're saying that he was ready to sign a 2-year contract at a lower price, but after 2 years he's a UFA, so Boston doesn't want to go through that.
Already a UFA after 2 years? Wow.
Apparently, from what I was hearing.
well, the reason they didn't go to arbitration is because he's able to select 1 or 2 years.
Yes, exactly.
And if Swayman selects 2 years, it would have walked him straight to his UFA, and then he could have gotten whatever he wanted from any other team.
Exactly.
So Boston, to avoid the arbitration hearing, decided that they were going to basically negotiate, but Swayman's asking for
10.5, I think,
around 10 million, and Boston doesn't want to go higher than 8 or
8. Last time I heard they were at 6.5.
6.5 was their offer. I mean, you're thinking they're going to meet somewhere in the middle, but it's not looking good right
That's
now.
going to be an interesting situation.
Finally, actually, there's 3 more. Letang, upper body injury. I think it was a hand. Another older player.
Much older player, 38, 39. Recovery time. They said he should be ready for preseason or whatever. But I'm always, man, when it's shoulder, hand, I'm always iffy. Like
Especially with offensive players.
Yeah, especially he's an offensive defenseman, right? So I'm always iffy about it and his age. And listen, they have Carlson there. So are they going to hurry him through this, or are they going to take their time and make sure he heals properly?
Yeah, loose leaf paper. It's tough. Yeah, it worries me. It worries me.
A couple of young guys to finish off. We had Lev Shunov, who was just drafted. I think he's missing 3 to 4 weeks.
That doesn't worry much.
Doesn't worry much. I don't even know if he's going to make it right away to the NHL, to be honest with you.
The next one's going to.
And if he does, I don't know how productive he might be.
And we're finishing it off with one of Vince's favorite people to bash on.
Never.
Because he's a Simon Nemec owner.
I never bashed on
Luke Hughes is injured, and it looks like it's going to be
6 to 8
6
weeks.
to 8
6 to 8
weeks,
weeks?
which basically is about 2 to 4 of regular season.
But it's a shoulder injury. We've all seen Caulfield with a shoulder injury. It took him a while before he came back and was the Caulfield that we know. And I didn't bash Luke Hughes. I just said, and if you guys can go back into the episodes and say, Nemec...
You bashed him.
No. Nemec will be a better all-around defenseman. And at the end, I said Nemec will end up with more points than Luke Hughes because he'll play more games than Luke Hughes. And as of right now, I'm right.
Okay.
So I was listening to Fantasy Hockey Life, I believe, and they did a preview on the Devils. Hamilton's going to get power play 1, not even Nemec.
Of course. Come
and
on.
probably not even Luke Hughes.
All right.
Let's get into these goalies, Nick.
Guys, so I wanted to preface the whole goalie discussion very quickly by mentioning there's different leagues that count different stats for goalies. So the most important thing for you is to make sure that you are aware what your league counts. Now, for us, it's very difficult to choose one stat and say, you know what, it should be wins that we should be looking for, or we should be looking at only games played, or we should be looking at only save percentage, or only goals against average.
Cap league, no cap league.
Cap, no cap. So very difficult for us. Very difficult for us to come up with a list that is going to encompass all of those different types of leagues, which is the reason why when I did my part of the rankings, at least, I basically mentioned elite volume starters as my tier 1, very good starters, volume starters as my tier 2, and then my tier 3 is volume starters that are good. but like I'll mention it each time I mention my rankings. Why do I mention tiers? Because when I draft goalies, it's in tiers. So when I'm in a draft and I know that if I want a tier 1 goalie, I know I'm getting them either second to fourth round. If I don't get my tier 1 goalie in the second or third or fourth round, chances are they're not going to be there. So that's my tier 1.
What do you guys call that draft? No.
Zero G
Strategy.
The 0G goalies are going to be a little bit later on. So do you want to just start, or do you guys have anything to mention about your rankings before we get started?
Well, my basically my rankings are volume starts and wins, because I think most leagues take it from there. I mean, some leagues get into the complicated area where saves, goals against, so stuff. But I kept it simple because most leagues it's
I
all
think
about
saves is pretty
saves,
universally.
Yeah, exactly.
Too.
But I mean that the rest is like wins, volume starts, volume wins. That's what I base my rankings on.
Same.
Okay, so let's get started.
And the situation as well.
I want to see if we're all agreed on this. So I have Igor Shesterkin as my number 1 goalie in tier 1.
100%.
Connor Hellebuck.
Okay, talk to me. Why? What's the difference to you?
There's very slim difference. It's just he's done it longer. He's done it longer and more.
And that's why you tune into this podcast.
But honestly, what are the differences between the two?
Well, I mean, you could have said that his goal saved above expected is the highest in the league last year. He won the Vezina last year.
Yeah, but everybody knows that. The reality is he's just done it longer, so I have more confidence in him doing it than Shesterkin.
So consistency.
Consistency, 100% consistency.
But
Okay.
don't you
And
think,
he's on a team that needs him more than...
But don't you think his volume is going to lower because of what happened in the playoffs?
Well, he
But
lost...
who's he gonna lose
He
starts
lost
to?
Brossois. He lost Brossois, so he's going to get... He has Kakkonen now as a backup.
I understand he had Brossois and he still played.
He was Vezina winner.
I understand, but
But did he win the Vezina? Yeah, he won the Vezina.
yeah, but that's what I'm saying. I don't have Hellebuck I have him in my tier 1. I just don't have him first in my tier 1 because I feel Winnipeg has to make the right decision this year and give more starts to Kakkonen because Hellebuck looked tired in the playoffs, and that's why they got booted out. And for them, it's not making the playoffs. They're not there to make the playoffs, Winnipeg. They're there to get far into the playoffs. The only way to do that is with Hellebuck.
Okay.
Less starts might mean, though, some of the extra losses he had might become wins. So, like, it's almost...
Okay. So, but look, he's a elite volume starter who is just coming off of Vezina, and we all have him in our tier 1. Let's not beat a dead horse here. We know that he is a tier 1 goalie.
Yeah, he played 60 games last year.
And I have him as my number 2 goalie. The only reason I'll just throw in a little bit of Shesterkin. I thought Shesterkin had an amazing playoffs. And I think that because he had a really, really good playoffs, I think it carries over into this season.
Yeah, the only... I have Shesterkin as my number 1. My only worry with Shesterkin at number 1 is if the Rangers start running away with that first place position.
Why?
Because then he won't get the starts anymore. They're going to rest him and they're going to put Quick more often than him. So that's what my only worry is. But I'm hoping that that division will still be competitive enough that the Rangers haven't clinched first place in February.
Well, I think that's an interesting thing, but that's a coaching decision that we don't know what the coach is going to be thinking in that situation. You're presuming that the coach is going to be thinking in that way, right? So, any reason you hate Shesterkin?
No, I don't. He would be my number 2. He would be my number 2.
Okay, so whatever. We all have them around the same thing. I have UC Saros as my number 3 goalie, and he's in tier 1 for me. He's the last person in my tier 1 for me. UC Saros. The only thing that scares me with Saros is that he always starts the season and feels like on very, very slow, and then just boots it up in the second half of the season.
I do not have UC Saros in my tier 1. I have him in my tier 2, and I have him mid-range in my tier 2.
Jeez.
He will get volume starts, so he'll get between the 55 and 60 starts.
He had 64 last year.
Yeah, exactly. So he might even hit 65. I doubt he'll hit 70, but 60 to 65. My only issue is a lot of new pieces went into that team. So how much time is it going to take for them to blend and play the system that the coach wants? So I feel the first few months might be a struggle with Saros, not because of him, but because of the team that needs to. And like you said, he's usually a very slow starter during the year, and then I don't know, Christmas he gets all his gifts and decides to rack it up and become an all-star. But you take that into consideration, then they brought in, and they didn't bring in like number 10, 11, 12 forwards. They brought in top 6 forwards. They brought in a top 4 defensemen. So it's all about the blend. He could be in the tier 1, like you say. But to me, it all determines on how quickly that team blends.
So I'll get back to you to see who you have in tier 1 right after this to replace Saros. But I have Saros in tier 1. Do you have him in tier 1?
No, he's my first guy in tier 2.
Interesting.
He's my first guy.
The only way that I agree with you guys is that he only had 35 quality starts last year.
Mm-hmm.
And in the previous season, he had 40. And the previous before that, he had 43. So I felt that he had an off year a little bit last year, and he still ended up as a great, great goalie. So that's the reason I have him at tier 1 is because I feel like he has the starts, and even on an off year, he still ends up being a top goalie in the league. But I could kind of buy what you guys are selling a little bit. Who do you have instead of Saros in your tier 1?
Vasilevsky.
You have Vasi?
Yeah, in my tier 1, I have 3 goalies: Shesterkin, Hellebuck, and Vasilevsky. I just feel Vasilevsky last year, when he first came back, you saw he was rusty. You saw he missed camp. You saw he just came back from a surgery. So that's why his numbers are a bit inflated because of that. But a full off season of training, rest, because Tampa Bay played so many games. Like if you calculate Tampa Bay's games in the past 5 years, it's almost double some of the teams that have played. So, and I feel he's got a chip on his shoulder now that people are getting him, like not even mentioning him with the big names anymore. And I love the changes they've made on defense. Like you said, yes, they lost Sergachev, but they picked up so many McDonoughs. They picked up guys that are very conscious defensively. That's going to help them.
As Vasilevsky in redraft leagues can be a league winner because of how low you can get him in your draft.
I like that. So just to give you guys...
in 10 years in the league, not once did he go under 900 as a save percentage. And other than his rookie and sophomore year, he had a 50% quality start in 8 of his 10 years in the league.
Yeah. He only played 52 games last year, and I think that's the lowest amount of games that he's played in 4 years.
Is that all for tier 1 for you, or I have one more in tier 1?
Yeah, I don't have anybody else in my tier 1. Who do you have in your tier 1?
I added Ilya Sorokin in tier 1. I added Ilya Sorokin because, again, I model it off consistency. In 4 years in the league, 909 save percentage or better, and 909 was this last year, and it was considered an off year for him. Prior to that, 924, 925. Goals against average, always under 3. Just under 3 last year at 299. But prior to that, it was under 2.5.
3.01 last year.
According to Frozen Tools, it's 0.
Anyways, doesn't matter.
Anyways, whatever. Just over 3, under 3, doesn't matter. Quality starts over 60%, except for last year, 58.9. So for me, just the analytics of it all, Sorokin has to be as. I just wish he had a bit more wins, but other than that, he should be the bottom of your tier 1.
The only reason I don't have him there is because of the injury concern, and because it's a new coach with a new system, and I don't know how that's going to affect his numbers. So
definitely handcuff him.
Yeah,
definitely handcuff him.
That's the only reason he's not in my tier 1, and actually he's not even in my tier 2 because my tier 2 is only 2 players: Vasilevsky, which we've already spoken about, and Jake Ottinger.
Wow, that's your tier 2.
That's my tier 2. I think Ottinger
mine's a little bit more crowded.
Yeah,
I think. Well, I'll tell you why. So Sorokin, injury concern. Demko, we mentioned. Markstrom, new team. Swayman, contract negotiation. Stuart Skinner, I mean, great team, but is
Not
he really
necessarily great numbers.
Not a right. Bobrovsky coming off a Stanley Cup deep playoff run. He's a little bit older in age. That's my tier 3. That's my entire tier 3. Ottinger, the youngest out of that group probably, or close, whatever. He's still a very, very young goalie on an amazing team. And I feel like he had a very bad year last year. I'm projecting him to have a big rebound season this year. That's why I have him in my tier 2 with Vasilevsky.
Vince?
Ottinger, I have him in my tier 2. I have him pretty high. I still have a goalie ahead of him in my tier 2. But yeah, I agree with you. Last year was not very off. It was an off season for him. Everybody was saying it was an off season for him. Everybody expects him to do better, and I don't feel like the team got worse. I think actually Dallas is always key, big, like always there, always fighting for that first place in the division. So I could see him have a good season. For Sorokin, the biggest thing with Sorokin for last year, he was the goalie that got the third most shots against and second most saves. So with the new system, is that going to happen again? Are they going to close it down more? Remember when at one point he was Patrick Roy was going 1-1, him and Varlamov. So is like how patient will Patrick? Remember how we were saying how patient will Torch be with Michkov? How patient will Roy be with Sorokin? So that's why I don't have Sorokin in my tier 1. I have him first in my tier 2. But for Ottinger, I agree with you, Nick. 100%. He's.
You want to see it more.
I want to see him play more games, but also, can Dallas just keep up this consistency that they've been that they've done all year long, or is there a drop at some point? So, but he's in my tier 2.
Look, I know you mentioned the contract, but Swayman is my tier 2 because if Boston doesn't get that done prior to the preseason, then it's almost unrealistic to think of. Like, it's unimaginable. The guy, if you have any hopes of whatsoever of competing for the playoffs, you need this guy.
Well, to be fair, Swayman's on top of my tier 3. But again, tier 2, Jake Ottinger, Vasilevsky, that's my tier 2. So I'm not, we're talking about, like, we're nitpicking here at little things of why I would drop somebody and why I would keep them up. So I said to myself, I would drop him just because his contract negotiation is scaring me a little bit. Not because he's not the most talented goalie in that group, maybe, or should belong in that group. Don't forget, Swayman also hasn't played a full stretch by himself.
Well, that's one reason why he hadn't made it to tier 1 is because, or the top of my tier 2, because
He's
he
only played
hasn't
44
proven to be a
games.
volume starter just
That's
yet.
right.
Right? Because Allmark took up half the start. So,
And that's why he's in my tier 3.
but numbers alone, he has elite numbers. He has elite numbers, and the more games he plays, we're hoping for more wins and better stats. But that could go the opposite way just as much as it could go.
Just remember what Victor said. I think it was Victor that said this, actually. I'm not even sure. Sometimes you see somebody get a bigger role on a team, and they struggle a little bit with that bigger role. Bigger volume starts might be a little bit more of a struggle for him. He's never done it before. The max he's ever played is 44 games in a season. That's a 1A, 1B goalie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he hasn't proven to be a volume starter yet. I still think he has all the talent in the world. I just don't know if this year is going to be the year that he all of a sudden plays 60 games and is elite for all 60 of them.
It's always easy to play when you have a safety net behind you, which for Swayman was Allmark. Doesn't have that anymore.
No, he has the worst goalie in the league.
Corpusal. So that worries me about Swayman, especially with this whole contract situation. But it worries me. He's young, so I'm not worried about him playing 55 to 60 games. He'll be able, but
It's just keeping that consistency up for that amount of games.
it's
different.
very
It's
easy
different.
when you have a backup like Allmark, or when you know you're an one B and 1B. It's very easy to get on the ice and play, because at the end of the day, the coach probably told you this month, this is when you're playing, this is when he's playing. So you expect those starts.
Guys, in my tier 3, I have Jacob Markstrom there. I think it's a no-brainer that he had a great season last year, but we've seen him kind of have good seasons and bad seasons before. Now he's on a new team.
He's a Vezina trophy.
Okay.
No.
okay.
All right. There you go.
No, but every time
Guys, tier 1. Jacob Markstrom.
every time the first year on every team that Markstrom ever goes to, he's gonna pull out 9 shutouts this year.
I like it.
That's what he did with Calgary. First year in Calgary, what did he do? He came in and he pulled in 10 shutouts. Every time, every first year of the new team that he plays with, lights out. And after that, it's like comes back to reality.
The difference is that now he's supposed to be the saving grace of this team. And anytime like a team has just one hole and they go get the guy, I don't know, it just never ends up being so flawless. And that's what worries me a little bit, which is why I have him in tier 3 and not above. But yeah, he's not my top in the tier 3, but he's in my tier 3 as well.
Okay, so not just to make all of this about gut feelings, although, let's be very honest, at the end of the day, goalies, it ends up being
So
a gut,
unpredictable.
so unpredictable that it ends up being a gut feeling in the end.
Because like even if we give out Markstrom's numbers last year, we can all agree he's on a better team this year than he was on last year.
The only thing is that but he's had consistency in the sense of he played 48 games, which is the lowest of his career last year. So he's nice and fresh.
Fresh.
26 quality starts that year. 26 quality starts the year before that. The year before that, 38 quality starts. So there is some level of consistency there. I do think that he is going to have a great year in New Jersey. I don't know about Vezina, like Vince said, and we're gonna radio him to make sure that every podcast network out there knows that Vince says that's his Vezina winner. And if he's wrong, we're gonna delete it. I also have Bobrovsky there.
You missed a goalie.
I'm not. I'm going through the tier.
Yeah, but you missed a goalie in your tier.
Okay, Stuart Skinner.
Yeah, for like, how do you not talk about Stuart Skinner?
Well, I was going to mention Bobrovsky and Skinner in the same vein and see which one you guys
okay,
prefer.
go ahead.
Bobrovsky and Skinner. Same vein to me. I mean, Bobrovsky is obviously the veteran, right? But he's on a very good team. He's coming off a very deep run.
Very good team.
Well, the Stanley Cup champion team, but the other guy is on the second place team. So I didn't want to.
But Bobrovsky is on a Stanley Cup champion team that lost 2 key defensemen in Montour and Ekman Larson. So, and they've been saying it when players hit that plateau of, I finally did it. I finally reached my goal, which is winning Stanley Cup. There's always a setback the year after with some players. And I feel Bobrovsky is going to be one of those players this year. First, because I think Florida will come out. They won't come out flying out of the gates. I think it was a long season, like we said before, long season, hard-fought playoffs. So I feel the team's going to come out slow. And then the 2 key pieces that they lost, I think it's going to affect Bobrovsky. I take Skinner over Bobrovsky because I feel Skinner... Listen, Skinner is there because he has a nice salary for Edmonton and he can save some pucks. And they're hoping he can save some pucks. But he also has the most potent offense in the NHL.
So I have Skinner also above Bobrovsky for the same reasons. It's because I feel that Florida lost a lot of defensemen, quality defensemen as well. And that kind of scares me a little bit.
I have Bobrovsky above, but they're 1 and 2. And the problem with Bobrovsky, and they kind of have the same issue in terms of perspective for opposite reasons. Bobrovsky, when he has a bad year, it's a very terrible year. So it's so noticeable amongst all the great years he's had. And Skinner, on the other hand, he doesn't have a pedigree. So who's Skinner that he comes out of nowhere and then he plays with the Oilers and he puts up his numbers are great, guys. Under 2.62 goals against average last year, 905 save percentage, 914 the year before, 913 before that. He's only done it for 2 years consecutively, 50 plus games. That's the worrisome part a little bit. But he still puts up numbers. It's just because his name is Stuart Skinner and wasn't drafted high and came out of nowhere that people maybe give him a bit more of a hard time.
But it's not it's not ride or die with Stuart Skinner. It's ride or die with Stuart Skinner. You're not going anywhere if you're Edmonton with Picard or whoever they have as a backup. Bobrovsky, there's a young player named Spencer Knight who's there, and apparently who's
healthy,
back to healthy, ready to take on the league. So that little bump in the road that Bobrovsky is going to have, I don't think Maurice is going to hesitate to put Spencer Knight in nets.
And they went to get Drieger. Is
Which
that how you
they
pronounce
had.
it?
They sent him to Seattle and then they took him.
I think it's Spencer Knight's job to lose the second.
I think this year it's Spencer Knight's job to win. If Bobrovsky falls, which I think he will at some point this year, it's for him to take the expression, the bull by the horns, and go and run with it.
What about? Do you have him in that tier? I think you do. Do you have Olmark in that tier?
No, he's not in my tier 2.
Oh wow.
Sorry, he's not in my tier 3.
Okay.
He's in my tier 4.
Okay. Anybody else in your tier 3?
Only one that we kind of touched on a little bit already, and it's Demko.
Agreed.
He is the last person in tier 3 for me, and a big reason why he's there is because I think he has the talent to be great, maybe even fight for tier 2, but this injury is just scaring the bejesus out of me. And I don't think you can go into the season confident, not knowing exactly how this will affect him.
I had him in tier 2, and then before the show, when we put up the notes and stuff and realized that the injury was more of a concern, I dropped him to tier 3 because if he doesn't get those volume starts, then. But I do have Allmark ahead of him.
Wow.
And, yeah.
Okay.
I do think Allmark, his numbers are good. He's going to a great opportunity. I mean, he's going to be the volume starter if Forsberg has to come in. Anton Forsberg in Ottawa, maybe. But I think Allmark, I actually have a few guys. I still have 4 more goalies in this tier.
That's a very big tier.
But
yeah.
You don't feel the same conversation we had about Swayman we should be having about Allmark also? Where he's never played more than 49 games. He played 49 games once in his career with Boston. Before then, he's never played more than 40 games. And we're talking about Markstrom coming in as the savior of the team. Isn't this what they're doing with Allmark? They brought in Allmark to... So I feel...
So that's why I separated my tiers.
Yeah.
Well,
I separated my tier because...
I have them both in the same tier, to be fair.
I separated my tiers because when I look at Swayman, I see a young goalie full of talent who is on a great team and is going to get the majority of the starts. I look at Allmark as a person that is on a new team, has never, like Swayman, never played a full season, but has the talent, but there's a lot more question marks with Allmark. That's why I don't have as much confidence between Swayman and Allmark. In my next tier, which is tier 4, it's all these starters that if you have them, you're still good. They're good starters, but maybe not as confident as the Bobrovskys, the Sorokins, the Demkos, the Markstroms, the Swaymans. Like, for example...
You name your goalies. I have a few that I think I would put in a higher tier. But go.
So I start off my tier 4 with Georgiev. I think Georgiev is a good goalie, not great, on a very good team. And because of that, I feel that he belongs on the top of tier 4 for me, but not quite a good enough goalie for my tier 3, because my tier 3 is still very good goalies.
Annunen doesn't scare you a little bit?
Annunen does scare me, yes.
Mind you, we're talking tier 4 here, right? So there's a reason. I mean, that all comes
tier
into
4
play.
is still starters, right?
Yeah.
Still starters on a team,
So,
but not as much confidence for me.
to me, I tried to categorize my goalies, and I highlighted them in different colors depending on their situation. So
You color-coded them?
I color-coded.
Like
Green
cute
for
kid.
starters, blue for 1A, 1B tandems, and then pinkish red for for backup goalies.
I just roll mine in an Excel sheet
everybody-
with numbers next
No,
to
but
it.
I'm just,
I think everybody that's listening to this on the podcast just fell asleep.
Yeah.
my point to that was just to say that Georgiev for me falls into a 1A 1B tandem this year. When all is said and done, we'll see them as a 1A 1B because Anunen will get quite a bit of starts.
I love Anunen. I think you're right. I feel like Georgiev is going to end up losing this. I just don't know if he's going to totally lose it this year.
It's a really it could be like a league winner or it could be a disaster
There's more question marks with this
because
year.
it is a contract year for Georgiev.
If you have him,
There's more question marks.
if you have him, trade him. Trade him now, because
Sell high.
I mean, 0.897 last year. Save percentage. There's no way Colorado accepts this year, especially when they think that Anunen is ready to be a starter. So,
But he has to do it. Anunen
no,
still has to
100%,
step in
but
and do it. So that's-
I think this is the year where they're actually going to give him the opportunity to do it, especially when Georgiev goes on his slumps that he always goes on. So, Georgiev, I would have him at this is tier 4.
this is my tier 4.
I would have him at like the bottom of your tier 4.
Wow.
And the goalie you have at the bottom of your tier 4, I would have at the first. I would even make him go into tier 3.
There's just too many question marks. That's the problem. So this tier, everybody in this tier for me has question marks. So I'll just mention it because we seem to be jumping a bit of the goalies. So I'll
Yeah, because
mention
this is
all of
where
them.
it gets a little bit.
Yeah, because now you could really clump them
Yeah.
together and not, right? So Georgiev is my tier 4.
Tier 4.
Binnington is my tier 4. Allmark is my tier 4. Tristan Jarry is my tier 4. Aiden Hill, I'm even thinking of dropping him to tier 5.
Yeah.
But he's in my tier 4 right now. Connor Ingram, who might be a surprise to some, is in my tier 4 at the same level as these guys. And Joseph Woll is in my tier 4. So I'll mention why
Go.
Woll, because you mentioned Woll.
Yeah.
Or you said, why do you have him at the bottom? They're all around the same for me. But Woll, his inability to stay healthy has really come to light the last couple of years. And even I was talking with some of the guys from Project Llama that are Toronto fans that have been watching him forever. All the talent in the world, but even in the AHL, he was never able to be a volume starter. When you're telling me that you have Woll and Stolars, these are big question marks. It's the only question mark, actually, that I have in Toronto. I think Toronto has an amazing team. But this is a question mark for me. And that scares me. If I'm drafting and my first goalie is Joseph Woll, I'm scared.
I understand the whole injury situation, but the team situation is goaltending view is better than it ever was in Toronto. And that's why I would have Joseph Woll.
If he starts.
He will. Who's behind him to start? They're not giving the job to Stolars.
If he's injured, they have no choice.
No, of course.
But that's what I'm
if
saying,
he's
is that
injured.
he's always injured.
No, I know, but Demko's always injured, and you got him up there.
Demko has played seasons
He
where
has a
he's
bit more of
done
a history.
over 50,
Yeah, I know,
50
but,
games.
To me,
Woll has not.
Woll this is going to be his breakout season, where I have Toronto second in division, where Toronto has surrounded him with a good or
But we're not talking
positive-
the same thing anymore.
yeah, we are.
I
because-
know that he's in a great team. I don't give a shit. I'm saying that he's never played
Oh, he's getting
more
feisty.
than 25 games in the NHL.
That's fine, but I'm saying this is going to be his breakout year. So
So you're predicting he's going to stay healthy.
100%.
He's never done it before.
He's gonna play 55 to 60 games for Toronto this year, and if he does, he'll be one of the top 5.
If he
goalies.
does, I don't think he does.
Don't turn to me. You're not going to like what I'm going to say.
Go for it.
He's in my tier 3.
Okay.
He's in my tier 3. If I put Demko there, based off, look, yes, he has more starts to prove his quality, but Woll is Woll younger than Demko. And in terms of projection, I think that the new system Berube will put in place will help structure this team and not have them win shootouts every second night. Yes, staying healthy is as we always say, is a skill, and he's got to prove that. But at some point, you take a chance on a league winner,
Yeah,
right?
but okay, so where's Woll?
And Woll, because of the great opportunity he has, I'm okay taking that chance.
That's a big chance.
I'm
to take.
okay taking that chance.
So I know I could guarantee
but
you
I agree with what you're saying. Everything you're saying,
I
I'm
will
just willing
guarantee
to
you
take that risk.
that in none of my redraft leagues this year I will end up with Wool, and not because I'm going to fade him. I'm not going to fade him. It's because there's going to be one Toronto fan in every one of your leagues that's going to draft him very early, like in a tier 3, for example, and it's just too many question marks for me to be confident in drafting him that early. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that he's not a good goalie. I'm not saying he's not on a great team. I'm not saying that if he doesn't play 60 games, he's not going to be one of the top goalies in the league. I'm saying that he's never played more than 25. Guys, we're not talking about somebody that played 40 before, like Allmark, who's played 45 games before. We're not talking about somebody like...
But 40 is not 60.
See, that's where I have.
But
40 is
even
not
worse.
60.
That's
And if
even
he's on a
worse.
good team, out of 40 games, he might have 28 wins.
It's only his third year.
Maybe.
It's his third year in the league. Allmark has, we have Allmark higher in the tiers, but he's only proven to play 40 games. He played 45 games once. He won a Vezina because he was with Boston.
And that's still 20 games more than Wool has ever done.
100%, but Wool's only been in the league 3 years. Allmark's been in the league for what, 10 years? I feel, yes, the injuries, I understand where you come from with the injuries. And
There has to be a confidence meter there.
yes, but at the end of the day, all these goalies can come with an injury stat, right? So,
Well, not the tier 1s and 2s.
Vasilevsky got hurt, played.
1 year.
Yeah.
Out of 15.
But he has 15 years.
Compare.
But he has
Okay,
15
so
years under his belt.
you rather take Binnington over Wool
I would rather...
based off your tiers.
Well, I have them on the same tier.
I thought you had... Oh, yeah, you're right.
I have them in the same tier. Like, I have as much confidence going for Binnington, who had a spectacular season last year, on a St. Louis team where he does have some competition in Hofer, and they're hoping Hofer takes over somewhat. I have as much confidence in Binnington as I have in Wool. So you could take that as much as you want, but I think they're in the same tier for me. And I really do agree with that. And again, not talent-wise. Wool has the talent. He hasn't done it before. I'm not going to start throwing my mortgage at Joseph Wool, who's never played more than 25 games.
At tier 3, I don't think you're throwing a mortgage, though.
Tier 4 for me, but yeah.
Tier 4, or like even if you put him in tier 3,
I'm
I
not
mean,
saying, I'm not saying to draft.
Well, they're still
Gorgia-
starters.
he's at the bottom of a tier 3. You're fighting with top tier 4, which is Binnington, Gorgiev. I mean,
Okay.
I would
So
take Wool.
it's a good discussion anyways. And if anybody has comments on this, go right ahead and put them in the
but it's definitely
YouTube.
a risk. There's a risk factor to taking Wool in a fantasy league, for sure.
I have him in my top 10.
Yeah, but you like risk.
You like a lot of risk.
Another person
Wow.
who we have in this, so we kind of mentioned Georgiev, Binnington, Allmark, Wool. What about Tristan Jarry?
I don't know.
I pity the fool.
I don't know. I honestly, I wouldn't even know what to tell you with Tristan Jarry. He had a pitiful season, but 6 shutouts last year? And the team itself, I have no idea what to tell you. I can't even tell you where Pittsburgh's going with in the season. Who's his backup? Is it still
Nedeljkovic.
Dalkovich?
And they have, is it Bloomberg coming up soon?
Blomqvist.
Blomqvist, and then the Russian as well.
Listen, Tristan Jarry, I think I wouldn't. He's one goalie I would not put my mortgage on, like you said. Like he's a goalie. He's one of my 0G goalies. If I'm going,
He's probably going to be drafted before that because he is a volume starter. And for some leagues, they value volume.
He lost his job
Yeah.
last year.
He had 51 games played last year.
Yeah, but when push came to shove, fighting for a playoff spot, he lost his job.
So did Sorokin
But
at some point. But
for the listeners that come from the Lama League, I think Tristan Jarry is tier 1. I really do. I think you guys should all inquire about him. Whoever has him, like, shoot them a message and see if he's available.
funny enough, Tristan Jarry had 55%, 54.9% quality start percentage. That's very similar to what Vasilevsky had last year. it's very similar to some of these other goalies had last year. Now, the shutouts help. And shutouts are not something that's predictable. They're not something that is... It's the most shutouts he's ever had in his career last year. But it's also the lowest amount of wins that he's had in like 6 years.
Look,
Actually, sorry. It's the lowest amount of wins ever since like his second season in the NHL.
it was the tale of two halves, right? We spoke about this when we previewed the Penguins. He had an abysmal second half of the season. He just couldn't get things right. He's not a bad goalie because his quality starts will tell you that. But he's in a really bad situation. He's in a real... Personally, I wouldn't even dare to touch him in a fantasy draft this year.
If your league values wins highly, maybe this is not the goalie for you. Is that fair?
Yeah.
And look, there's risk here for sure.
But I think that the next, all the goalies that we're going to talk about next, there's all a bit of risk. Like Connor Ingram, he had a phenomenal season last year. Can he? But it's his first I think, full season he had.
I feel safer with him than Jarry, I think.
Really?
I feel safer with Ingram because I think Utah is a better team than Pittsburgh.
Essentially, it comes down to that.
So
Because to me right now, it all becomes what kind of team you're playing for.
So 52 quality starts
Last year.
52% quality start percentage for Ingram last year. It was the first time he ever got volume. He played 50 games, 23 of them wins, 907 save percentage, and he 2.91 goals against average, 6 shutouts as well. I still feel it's kind of the same as Tristan Jarry for me. I have him in the same sphere because I'm just not sure. Like, there's question marks in both.
So which team do you have more confidence in, Utah or Pittsburgh? So my answer would be Utah. Because
Really?
I think they're on the hill going up, whereas Pittsburgh is on a hill coming down.
So I agree with that. I just don't see a Crosby.
Yes.
on,
That was my
right?
next topic is they also don't have Sidney Crosby.
So it's kind of like if you have a scale, it's like, yes, Utah is going to be an exciting market because it's a brand new market. People are going to be on a high. They're finally out of Mullet Arena, but they don't have Sidney Crosby. But, so I'm playing this whole seesaw between a lot of these guys in this tier for me are all guys that have question marks. And that's why I created this whole tier. Because this is my question mark tier, but they're still good starters. They're still starters in the NHL.
Aiden Hill. Is he...
That's another question mark.
But I find he's the biggest question mark in this group of goalies you have.
Really?
Yeah, I really do.
Very good team. Amazing defense.
A very good structured defensive team. But we're talking about injuries. He's one guy who couldn't stay healthy at all.
Does he not remind you a little bit of a Joseph Woll? That's why I have them in the same tier.
He's got a Stanley Cup, so no. No, but he hasn't stayed healthy for 2 years now.
And maybe Joseph Woll will have a Stanley Cup this year, Toronto fans. Please like and subscribe.
But no, Aiden Hill listen, he always had competition behind him. Last year, it was Logan Thompson until he got hurt.
This year,
This year,
Samsonov.
Samsonov. Yeah.
And look, we're on record to say we like Samsonov this year.
Yeah, but I like him enough to take over Aiden Hill's job? No.
But if you have to
It's the
draft,
best
if
defense.
enough-
It's the best defense Samsonov is going to be playing in front of.
Yes.
I just want to mention that.
There's enough there to make it a really 1B where they both get enough starts.
I can't wait till you get to a player that I still have in my tier 3 that you haven't mentioned yet.
Ooh, I think I know who he is.
Well, I'll get there.
He's definitely in this tier because he fits your mold.
I have many molds. Okay, so my next tier. Did I miss anybody?
You're going to another tier.
Yeah.
You're going to tier 5.
I'm going to tier 5.
Nick has a lot of time on his
Whoa.
hands.
Okay.
Well, no, I wanted to separate guys. Like, this is my... These here are not my 0G goalies. These are my goalies that are my last chance to maybe get a starter. That's literally how I name this tier. So they're not great starters. Mm-hmm. They're not starters that I have a whole lot of confidence staying starters all season. but they've shown enough to be quality enough for this area.
Can I try to guess who the goalie is, Junior?
Sure.
Is it Kemper?
No.
Man.
I think that he
Should
has
I-
UPL.
you want me to start
You
with?
have UPL?
No, I contemplated putting him, but he didn't do it for long enough.
Me too.
It's a guy whose numbers are absolutely phenomenal, and if he had a track record of staying healthy, he would be in our tier twos. Frederick Anderson.
Okay. I like it. I've just seen so much injury concern out of Anderson, but I could see an argument why he would be in my tier 4.
Like even if he plays 40
totally.
games, but he wins 30 of them and has a goals against average under 2 and is a 920 save percentage, like 3
Okay.
shutouts. Like last year I think it's hard to go off last year because he only played 16 games, 13 wins, 1.84 goals against average, 932 save percentage, like absolutely ridiculous numbers, unsustainable for 82 games or whatever, 60 games. But the guy, 248 goals against average the year before in 34 starts, 217 and 52 starts. The problem is his damn starts. But if he could stay healthy,
Oh, man, I think
that's definitely a risk I'm willing to take.
I
Like,
think
whoa.
Nick's gonna steal my thunder here. Do it, Nick. Say it. Say what I was gonna say. What I'm thinking. Go.
16 games last year. 34 the year before that. That's 50 total games in 2 years. And my math is good. Don't even try. That's not good enough. I understand that he has the talent. I understand he had a 75% quality start percentage last year in 16 games. He has a good team in front of him, although they did lose some defense.
And this is where I'm going at. I'll name you 2 players, Pesci and Sage.
Shea.
They lost 2 top 4 defensemen that they did not replace.
So that's
Gensel.
A. That's A.
Yeah, but Gensel.
That's A.
He was
And-
doing well without Gensel
and
in the
B-
years before.
And B, he's averaging the highest amount of games played that Wool has ever in his career. That's what he's averaging the last 2 times. 25 games
And
played
what if he
in
plays 50?
each. But see, like, that's not how you rank.
No,
you
but-
rank based
yeah.
on, at least I rank based on confidence level. I don't have the confidence he's going to play 50.
Okay, so you're saying for 3 consecutive years he won't play 30 games or more.
He's played 25 average the last 2 years.
So you're safe to say he's going to play 25 games or less.
No, I just haven't seen it. I need to see it. I can't possibly go out to the people that are listening to this podcast and say you should draft Frederick Anderson as a tier 3 goalie when he's only averaged 25 games the last 2 years. I don't think that's responsible of me. I don't think trying to predict that he's going to do more. Yeah, sure. I mean, like Joseph Woll, if he does more, he's in my tier 2. But I can't possibly go out there and tell these people that I am so confident that he's going to play 50 games this year that it's worth it for you to take a risk on him.
Okay, here's why it's not a risk. I have him ranked as my 14th best goalie. How many leagues are you in, redraft leagues, that you have more than 14 teams in? Even if you take Frederick Anderson, he gets hurt, he's out.
Yeah, but a lot of leagues start
Go
2
get
goalies.
Gorgiev, go get Binnington, go get Luukkonen, go get it. Like 0G strategy, Frederick Anderson is not a risk to take. Like it's a risk, but like as a 0G strategy, as your first goalie, to me it's a no-brainer.
But 14
you want to
is not
handcuff
as-
him with Kochetkov? Go ahead.
But 14 is not 0G. Because most leagues start 2 goalies. So 0G, you're talking about 19, 20, 21, 22.
Most 2 goalie leagues are some redrafts are 2 goalies,
I think every league that we play in is 2 goalies.
but it's dynasties and keepers.
I'll talk to you about a goalie that I think everybody should draft. And who's going to be a sleeper.
Oh boy, here we go.
Dun, dun, dun.
Sam Montembeault.
Definitely not. Darcy Kemper. With the
God.
Los Angeles Kings. He's in a system built for a goalie.
So was Corpusalo.
No. Yeah, and he did well. That's why he got the contract he did with Ottawa because
How many games did
LA
Corpusalo play for LA?
He played almost a full season.
No, I think I saw like one, and
No.
then playoffs or something. What was it?
Hold on, let me go get
Or
that.
was it one season?
But
and
I-
Carry on,
confused?
Vince. I'll go get
I
it for you.
think Darcy Kemper is in the best situation for a goalie his age that could be.
He's definitely in front of one of the strongest teams he's ever been.
Yes,
Defensively.
which he thrives on when he plays. So
Yeah,
I
he
think
split time with LA
Yeah.
in
30,
22,
39
23.
games total, Columbus, LA.
Yeah, but it was split. I don't know how many of those were with LA.
might be able to tell you here.
Anyways, doesn't matter.
Whatever.
But I feel like Darcy Kemper is one guy that if you're one of those guys in your drafts where you're waiting for a goalie and you're not
33.
where you're waiting for a goalie 33 and he got the
Not bad.
contract he did with Ottawa, so he did well. So LA makes, you know how we were saying Torts makes goalies sign big contracts because of the way his system plays. LA does the same thing. So I think he's in a good situation. So for anybody drafting and that I don't want to take a goalie so high, I'd rather go with players, he could be a guy that sneaks lower into the draft that could be a huge asset for you on your team.
I don't like him. I don't like him. I'm not too crazy on LA to begin with this year anyway. But yeah, I get it. And he could be a league winner easily based off that alone. But I'm just not convinced.
Well,
I'm not convinced.
I have Darcy Kemper as the top of my tier of this tier, which it's tier 5 for me. And
How about you name all those goalies, Nick, so we can.
so another guy that I really liked, I really liked him a lot, but he kind of only did it for 1 year, and then he had kind of a bad year, and that was Philip Gustafsson from Minnesota. So he's also in this tier with Kemper for me.
You're in tier 5 still, right? Because I still
I'm
got
in
plenty of goals in tier 4.
Yeah, we'll talk
All right,
about
go
your
ahead.
list another day.
No, we're not gonna.
I have Sam Montembeault in the same kind of atmosphere as these players because Sam Montembeault had a very good year last year, and Charlie Lindgren looks like he might be the 1A in Washington. I have him on this tier as well. Joey Decord had a phenomenal season last season, and Frederick Anderson. And again, like I'm basing this off of how many starts that I'm confident that they're going to have. This is kind of my 1A tier. So, other than Kemper, who we just spoke about, what do you guys think of Philip Gustafsson?
I think he's not going to get his opportunity because all Minnesota is going to do this year with Fleury is try to make him get those wins to finish second overall.
But I don't think he needs that many.
He needs 20, 15, 20.
Yeah, he plays more than 20.
But he's not. He plays 40 games. He has to win half of them. Minnesota's not that good of a team that he's going to win half his.
I see what you mean.
So I feel Gustafsson's
You
gonna
really
lose
think
out.
that Minnesota is willing to, if
100%. That's
if
the only
Fleury
reason.
is not playing well, you think they're going to risk their playoff chances on getting this guy?
I don't think they have a playoff chance this year.
Really?
Well, I mean, the play will dictate that. If they come out of the gates flying and they're competing,
But I feel that
Gustafsson played 45 games, so he played the majority of games last year, other than instead of Fleury.
he's a bit of a seesaw though. Gustafsson, he does well 1 year, does well.
Well, he's
bad
only
another.
played 2 full seasons in the league.
Doesn't have much to back him up.
Yeah, and that's a little bit why he's in this tier for me, right?
Well, same for UPL.
The same for UPL. Exactly why
Just
he's in this.
he's trending upwards in the sense that he's having finally his opportunity. Second full season, no competition because Levi should be starting in the minors with the signing of Reimer.
Yeah.
So,
So
we'll
Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, some will argue that he should be in the same tier as Joseph Wool because they're around the same age and they're
injury prone.
yeah, but at least Gustafsson has played 54 games in a season.
Luukkonen.
Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen has played 54 games in a season. Sorry, and he had a 9-10 save percentage. I feel like he's arrived. I'm just not as confident in Buffalo as I am in Toronto, and that's why I have them in different tiers. But you could call me. You could easily convince me to move him up a tier.
Yeah, well, I have him in tier 4 for that reason. I think the whole team is up and coming. They're starting to solidify their defense. He's always shown signs of being a great goalie. Last year, given a full opportunity, took it and did well. So I'm hoping that's the beginning of his future. And that's why I have him technically in tier 4, to be honest with you. Plus the volume starts. Starts because I don't see how many games Reimer could possibly play.
I really want to get your opinion on Joey Decord. Is another guy that only played 50 games once in his career. Before that, he played 5. Before that, 5. Before that, 8. Before that, 1. Like we're talking about, this is the first time he did double digits, and he ended up playing 50 games this season, and he did well. 60% quality start percentage, 3 shutouts, 19 wins.
Maybe a 0G, but like Grubauer's still there.
I think people will draft him earlier because he had such a good season last year. I don't think he'll fall to 0G.
From a best of 8 games played to 50. I mean, it's a huge jump. I don't know if I could trust that as a 0G, especially that you have a veteran like Grubauer behind you. But I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think that's why he's in my tier 5. Look, this is around the range that you start doing 0G.
But in the 2 goalie system, he could be your goalie number 2.
Listen, whoever picked him up last year was beneficial for him last year.
Listener Dan.
Listener
Yeah.
Dan.
So I feel the next goalies we're going to be talking about, like Nick said, is all about. This is when you're drafting goalies very late in your draft, and these are the guys you're stuck with. So even Charlie Lindgren had a good season last year, but is he gonna be able to hold up the number 1 goaltending, or is Logan Thompson gonna take over that job?
So here's what I'm going to do. Because that was my tier 5. I'm going into my tier 6 and 7 now. But just to keep it tight and concise, I'm going to mention some names, and you guys mention to me if you think that these are people that you would be interested in for this upcoming season, let's say in a 0G strategy, okay? Mm-hmm. So starting my next tier, I have Askarov, recently got traded to San Jose. Is he... Well, I won't go... I'll just mention all of them. Elvis Merzlikins, Cam Talbot in Detroit, Kochekov, Urson from Philadelphia, Dustin Wolf, who our guest last week, Victor Nuno, is part of the number 1 fan club for. Anthony Stolars, Toronto's maybe volume starter if Wool gets injured. John Gibson, Peter Mrazek, Laurent Brossois, and Dan Vladar. They're all, to me, in the same kind of category of waiver fodder, depending how deep your league is. They're either your third goalie or your waiver wire goalies.
Peter Mrazek is number 1 in Chicago. There's no one taking that away from him, so he's gonna get most of the games.
If your league counts wins, you're not gonna get many.
Yeah, but if they count saves, shots against, stuff like that, he's gonna get it.
Yeah.
All the rest, I feel, are gonna be guys that are gonna be. I don't feel Merzlikins is gonna last as a number 1 goalie there. I think Tarasov will take some of that the starts from him. Kochekov, it's same thing with Anderson. What are they gonna do? Who are they gonna go with?
Who's gonna stay?
Yeah, exactly. Who's gonna stay healthy, and who's gonna take the horn by the
Bull by the horns.
horn? You know.
Who was that? Who did you just mention?
Kochekov.
Even Urson, they signed Fedorov, who's not on this list, but I feel he's going to take over the number 1 goaltending in Philly. And he could be a good guy to go pick up at in the 0G strategy.
Personally, I'm not high on Detroit, but I think Cam Talbot could be a candidate for 0G. I think it's his
It's just
job
that they
to
have
lose.
4 goalies.
That's the problem. Detroit, that's the
Look, they
biggest
signed him
problem. You
to
have
a
no idea
2-year contract. To me, it tells me like they're done with Husso. Right? They have Alex Lyon. They signed Cam Talbot as an extra insurance. Jack Campbell. Like these are all guys that you have to bury. None of them could be sent down. You got to bury them.
Well, nobody's grabbing
No one's going to
Jack
grab
Campbell
them. But
off waivers.
2 years for Cam Talbot at that age, like, look, I like Kochetkov better given the risk factor with Anderson, but Talbot wouldn't be a bad idea.
Yeah, out of these guys, I think I would target Kochekov Obviously, in a dynasty, Askarov is the top of
Oh,
your
yeah,
list
yeah,
on this,
yeah,
on this
absolutely.
side.
Absolutely.
Dustin Wolf is high up there on the list on this side. Laurent Brossoit might be interesting depending on how many games he gets.
Yeah.
Right? Ursin, Fedotov, it's going to be tough. My final tier, which is a little bit of a big one, but I'm going to throw out some names. And again, I want you guys to tell me whether or not these are people that you're putting a watch list on, okay? Lucas Dostal is the top of my final list. Logan Thompson, Alex Lyon, Philip Grubauer, Devon Levi, Vejmelka, Samsonov, Forsberg, Nedeljkovic, Blackwood, Fleury, Varlamov, Anunin. Well, I think we spoke about Anunin already.
Yeah.
He should probably be much higher than this, but we just don't know who's going to get the majority of the starts. Caden Primo, Joel Hofer, Rittich, Tarasov, Picard, Carpasalo, Fedotov, Jake Allen, Spencer Knight, Silovs, Wedgwood, Quick, Johansson.
It's way too
Kakinen.
many goalies, Nick.
It's not.
Fell asleep.
This is actually
But you know what?
the
Yeah,
amount of goalies that are in the league.
you have names that I'm considering more in this tier than you did in the last list you mentioned.
Yeah, but they haven't started.
A guy like Lucas Dostal.
Okay.
I think Anaheim takes a big jump this year. That's someone I would consider because I think Gibson is all but done in Anaheim. I don't see him. Even if he's still there, I think they're trying to really push Dostal to get the starts.
I could see an argument for that, yeah.
Two names that come out. I think Logan Thompson by the end of the year will be a number one goalie for Washington. And who was and Fedotov, I think he's going to be number one goalie for Philly.
Yeah, for me, Samsonov might
Has a
Might-
chance.
has
Has
a
a
chance.
chance. But the rest, I
Right.
feel, are
the
all
style like you mentioned. I don't think Levi is gonna really do it this year.
no.
I think
no.
I think
He'll
UPL
see some games,
has,
but
yeah, UPL has taken over
Tarasov
there.
might be able to break open with Merzlikins, but besides that, I don't see anybody else.
I'm interested in seeing Caden Primo more.
I have two more names, if you don't mind. Artur Silovs.
Yeah, go ahead.
If Demko doesn't start the year, that's a great guy to have to
Do you know that
start.
Silovs is injured as well?
Yeah, he got hurt with Latvia, right? He's Latvian?
He got hurt. Yeah, he's Latvian.
At the
Yeah.
qualifiers.
He got hurt. He's gonna be
It's not that
not
serious.
as serious as Demko, as far as we know. Wedgwood in Nashville. I heard that Lankinen might be signing with a team soon, so that's another one that would join this.
Yeah,
Nedeljkovic too.
I feel it'll be all
Given how last year ended, Nedeljkovic might be a decent guy to have.
Jonathan Quick is probably the best backup in the league.
Yeah.
I mean, he plays on an incredible team in New York. He doesn't have the amount of starts that you would want, but he'd be a great handcuff.
I mean, Rittich put up good numbers when Talbot was bad last year in LA. I mean, if Quemper doesn't start well, Rittich can maybe hold his own. It's a lot of up and down, you know. It's give and take.
And
Anunen, of course.
Anunin, I was gonna mention Anunin. Anunin is a player that I think is gonna definitely, in the end of all this,
Yeah.
might jump into my tier 3 by midseason.
He's going to be the most
So
interesting
if Demko
situation.
doesn't start the year in redraft leagues, one goalie, do you take a chance with Silovs to start?
No.
And then you pick up whatever's left after when Demko comes back? First of all, no one will draft Demko if he's hurt, right?
I think
So
people will draft him and then
If you have an
handcuff
IR
him.
spot, yeah. But there's way too many goalies that are better off than Silovs
Silovs.
to take.
It's just such a small sample size that it's so hard to really.
And it
know.
was also playoffs where like momentum plays, adrenaline.
Also pressure, but
Season wise, it's like there's some games where you need to like drink 10 cups of coffee to get yourself up to play, right? So it's
Smelling
different.
salts.
Yeah, exactly. Nick,
Guys, Justin Anunin, I think is does not belong on this list. But anyways,
hey, you made it.
yeah, but I'm allowed to modify it as many times as I want.
I modified during the show.
Yeah, I can tell. All right. Well, any sleepers? We already mentioned that. Guys, I guess that's the end of it. These are our goalie rankings for the year, and we'll post them on social media. We'll try to get some social media
Yeah,
content
right. We'll
going.
try. We'll try.
I know that certain neighbors of mine do want my list and our lists, our consensus list. So maybe we could try doing something there.
Maybe we'll do a consensus list.
Okay.
I don't think we'll agree on it, but hey, we'll
Guys,
do our best.
Give us a 5-star review. Hit like and subscribe on YouTube. Please listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We're on iHeart. We're on everywhere, really, that you could listen to audio, video. We're on YouTube.
To all our new subscribers on YouTube,
Welcome.
welcome. Thank
Welcome
you
to
very
all our new
much.
subscribers. Thank you very much. Big thank you to Victor Nuno again for last week's episode. If you didn't listen to it, go back and listen to it. That was a banger. All about rookies for this season as well. Guys,
This is it. Next week.
what are we doing next week?
Oh,
Are we
defensemen
doing
and
defensemen
forwards?
and forwards or just defensemen?
I don't know. The defenseman I feel could take long.
I think defensemen
So let's just
alone
do
would be a full
defensemen.
episode.
Yeah.
Let's do
Especially
defensemen.
if we're going to be getting up and
Number
Ha.
one, D-man.
Let's go.
Lane Hudson for the, what is it?
AHL Laval Rocket.
Oh, man.
All right, guys. Thank you very much. Peace.
Have a great week, and don't forget Vince took Montreal to finish last.